I call Mary Fee to speak to and move Amendment 3761.2. Ms Fee, up to 7 minutes, please.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. And can I start by thanking the Equalities Minister for her motion today, highlighting the important work to tackle and end female genital mutilation and so-called honour-based violence, and bringing it to the Chamber to allow us to debate it. And speaking on behalf of Scottish Labour, I am happy to confirm that we will support both the Government's motion and the Conservative amendment today. And I would ask for support for our amendment, one which may be small in detail yet is hugely significant to meet our shared ambitions. And Presiding Officer, it's with regret and sadness that we require this debate, and that we need to have an International Day of Zero Tolerance for female genital mutilation. Regret and sadness knowing that medieval, barbaric and horrific acts of violence and mutilation are still carried out in the 21st century, primarily against young women and children. There will be few countries, if any, in the world that won't be affected in some way by female genital mutilation or honour-based violence. So it's right that as a Parliament we help in the global fight to shine a light on these behaviours and to raise awareness of the dangers of the violence and the cruelty in the hope of eradicating FGM and honour-based violence. And I'm sure across the Chamber there would have been anger when reading the Economist article An Agonising Choice from June last year, which called for a new approach, one which supports minor forms of FGM. And the author tried to argue that allowing minor forms that cause no long-lasting harm is better than being butchered in a back room by a village elder. Accepting this proposal would be a backward step and send the wrong message that abuse and mutilation of a child through FGM is somehow acceptable. And campaign groups across the UK were right to quickly condemn this article. And unfortunately, The Guardian went on to then report that it gave ammunition to supporters and practitioners of FGM that some in the West are on their side. And Scottish Labour, and I am sure members from across this chamber, will never give these ideas the time of day. And instead, we will continue to stand on the side of the women, the girls and the families who are affected by FGM to bring an end to this barbarity. The World Health Organization estimates that over 125 million women and girls are affected by FGM. Incidences of FGM tend to be concentrated in pockets of the Middle East, across Central Africa and increasingly in South Asia. Inspiration in tackling FGM can be taken from the work of NGOs and communities across the world. The work of Safe Kenya is an illuminating example of this. Female genital mutilation is illegal in Kenya, but is still widely practiced in rural areas across the country as a rite of passage. Safe Kenya has taken a community-based approach to tackling this gender-based violence, with 3 projects which are aimed at changing the cultural practices that normalise FGM. In the Luita Hills in Kenya, before Safe Kenya started working in the region, the rate of FGM was 98%. And by promoting an alternative rite of passage, this rate has now dropped by 20%. The practice of FGM and honour-based violence is driven by the deep-rooted, unequal power relationship between men and women across the globe. And education is key to tackling FGM and honour-based violence. A grassroots approach aimed at altering cultural views on FGM may be a slow process, but it is a necessary one and an effective means in the fight to eradicate FGM across the globe. And it's important to educate young boys and men that FGM is an extremely dangerous procedure which is not a religious requirement, it is not a prerequisite for marriage, and it is not a rite of passage ritual. It is quite simply an unnecessary, barbaric act which violates women and girls' human rights. And it's estimated that 24,000 people living in Scotland were born in an FGM practising countries, and that 12 women in the UK each year lose their lives to honour killings. All women and girls in communities the length and breadth of Scotland must feel safe, respected and equal. and it is the duty of this Parliament to make that ambition a priority. And whilst we must continue to support the victims of FGM in Scotland, we must also contribute to the global campaign to eradicate the practice of FGM. The UN International Day of Zero Tolerance for Female Genital Mutilation is a prime opportunity for the global community to use the power of their collective voice and show their strength in condemning the barbaric act of FGM. And in closing, Presiding Officer, I repeat our support for both the Government motion and the Conservative amendment, and ask that we recognise the role that faith leaders, well respected by their communities, can play in eradicating FGM and honour-based violence. And the Scottish Government Action Plan is an important aspect of their commitment to end FGM in a generation, and I am happy to work with the Cabinet Secretary and the Minister taking that plan forward. I move the amendment in my name. Thank you very much.